But let's dive into some sophomore breakouts for the 2023 NFL season. I'll start with you, man. If you got a top 5, if you just want to name some off, however you want to get into it, give me some players that are going to break out next year in the NFL that were, rookies last year, now going into their second year.
2023 is going to be the year of breakout receivers. I'm telling you right off the bat right now. There's 3 guys I had in mind. One actually happens to play for your team, Chris Olave. I actually predicted him before last season to be the offensive rookie of the year. He wasn't able to win that award, but still a fantastic rookie year, over 1,000 yards receiving with quarterback turmoil in New Orleans. Kind of all over the place.
Love that.
I think I see the comment there from Michael. Olave be cooking. I think he's going to be, now with Derek Carr and the history he has with helping guys around him get better, he kind of helped in some ways, not to take any credit from the whatsoever, but he kind of made Darren Waller. He kind of made Hunter Renfrow in the slot. So, an opportunity to compete with one of the better wide receivers, I think in the NFL, certainly one of the better young wide receivers in the league. I think Chris Olave is going to have an even bigger season. Listen, how about 1,500 yards? Is that crazy to say, 1,500 yards for Chris Olave?
I wouldn't be mad about it.
I'm just saying. I like Derek Carr in New Orleans. Second one, Garrett Wilson with the Jets. This is a pretty obvious one, teaming up with Aaron Rodgers. Having, again, a successful, we talk about the quarterback turmoil, so to speak, in New Orleans. It pales in comparison to what was going on with the Jets. You had 4 guys taking snaps behind center last year for them, and Garrett Wilson still having the productivity he did. Now, bring him in with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's had success with all different guys. Like, I mean, he's made, again, to a greater degree than Carr has. I mean, again, no disrespect, but are we talking about Jordy Nelson as much if he never plays with Aaron Rodgers? The same with
Probably
guys
not.
like Randall Cobb. Like, you look at what the potential is with Garrett Wilson with Rodgers. That is potential to be successful as well. And I think George Pickens in Pittsburgh is going to have a big year as well. I think Pittsburgh's offense in general is going to have a big year. You add their offensive line. You talk about the physicality he brings to the table, the good, sort of rapport he looks like he has with Pickett. I think he's got all the physical abilities to be one of the best receivers in the league. So I think those 3, 2023, you heard it here first, is going to be the year of the wide receiver.
Love that, man. Absolutely love that, because I had none of those guys on my list, and I love that you bring them up. Olave and Wilson had great seasons, first of all, too. You look at, like you said, Derek Carr coming in. That's hopefully going to be a bigger improvement for Olave, not that he was bad. Garrett Wilson getting one of the best to throw to him. Right. And then, damn, why am I losing the last
George Pickens.
Yes, George Pickens. Coming out of Georgia, played great with the Steelers. For some reason, I don't know why I thought he was going into his 3rd year, but yes, George Pickens coming out of that rookie year, I think he had about 800 yards or so he could definitely elevate to that 1,300 yard wide receiver 1 position. I'll start off here. Since you say George Pickens, I'm going to go Kenny Pickett. The Steelers went 7-2 down the stretch with him after he finally stepped in, became that starter. We know the defense that they provide. Kenny Pickett's numbers weren't amazing to look at, but when you saw how he was called on, and kind of really that, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, we're not going to ask a lot of you, maybe an occasional throw because we know you're capable of it, but we're not going to put it on you to go out and win the game. We've got a Najee Harris for that. We've got a TJ Watt for that. We brought in some great defensive players. They have a great NFL draft where you're looking at Keanu Benton, whether you're looking at Darnell Washington, which I think is going to be a big part of Kenny Pickett's breakout this year. So I love that you mentioned that. Jameson Williams with the Lions. I know that he was a guy that didn't get a whole lot of time last year. I believe he had a severe injury, but just a mere 8-9 months later, I know I say mere, but he comes back very quickly from that injury. Jameson Williams absolutely, I think, can have that breakout season being under Jared Goff, or not under Jared Goff, but having Jared Goff, a more reliable quarterback than I think a lot of people want to give him respect for, and I'm impressed by what he's done over in Detroit. Jameson Williams being that Alabama wide receiver, we know the guys that come out of the SEC usually play big time in the NFL. Teammate of Nolan Smith and also Jalen Carter, I think is going to be a big breakout player this year as well. He's very familiar with those guys. Even if he doesn't get to, and it's not that Jordan Davis wasn't solid last year, but we know what he was for those Bulldogs. Really a steal for him, a steal of Jalen Carter and a steal of Nolan Smith. The Eagles just lining it up with these Georgia guys, knowing that he's going to have, and Nakobe Dean as well, excuse me, I forget that. Knowing that he's going to have, yes, very, very solid guy. I love what Nakobe Dean brought to the table. Knowing that he's going to have those guys alongside him, knowing that Philadelphia was the number 1 team in sacks last year, Jordan Davis is going to get a lot of looks. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities, and he's going to be able to show out. John Mechie, I know he was battling cancer. Now he's going to be coming back with the Houston Texans, having C.J. Stroud being able to throw to him. C.J. Stroud should be taking those snaps from week 1. He's just going to have someone really to be comfortable with, and John Mechie wasn't a big wide receiver one type of guy. He was more of the two at Alabama, but I believe he's got the talent to be a one if Houston were to call on him for that. Brian Robinson, another Alabama player as well. You take a look at the running back that I believe got shot in the leg with the Commanders, shortly into
Yeah.
his season, still has that 800-yard year. I believe under Eric Bieniemy is my big reason I say that Brian Robinson is going to have that breakout year. Bieniemy's going to get really creative with him. We saw what Bieniemy just did in the Super Bowl year with the 7th-round pick and Isaiah Pacheco, and I think Robinson is at least as talented as him, if not more. Bieniemy's going to slide into that head coaching spot, but I think he's going to see, the Terry McLaurin, the Jahan Dotson, the Brian Robinsons of that team really be able to put them to use. And then the last one that's probably going to be a hot take for a lot of people, but he's going to be asked to step up to the table. And he's going to be asked by this team that's done a lot in the offseason, wasn't a fan of their draft, but they do go and pull, one of the best players out there. I'm going to give you guys Desmond Ridder. It's not going to be a major breakout year with the Atlanta Falcons, but knowing that he's going to be QB1, he's going to be stepping in. Marcus Mariota's out of the building. No one really is going to be in line with Desmond Ridder for that first place spot. We know Taylor Heineke is there, but Ridder, after already being named the starter as well, and I know I just put out the video about, the Falcons almost moved for him on draft night, and the Falcons potentially going back and forth between him and Taylor Heineke. He's going to be QB1. He was QB1 coming into last year's NFL draft for a lot of people, me included. I liked Malik Willis, but people call me crazy for this. In certain glimpses of his play, Desmond Ridder does have that Jalen Hurts type of vibe to him. Good arm. He's not going to steal the show every down, every time when you take a look at a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or, a Josh Allen or a Trevor Lawrence. But Desmond Ridder is going to be able to play well, I believe, next year. And he might not go out and win 9, 10, 11 games. But knowing what the Falcons were, knowing the minimal role essentially that he's had so far with the Falcons, having the Kyle Pitts, having the Drake London, having the Bijan Robinson full disposal for that entire 17 games that he's going to be starting in the regular season, I think Desmond Ridder is a guy that people are going to be keeping an eye on him. I think he could be one of those when he does start to move up in this season and pop. Maybe he's a small fantasy pickup, kind of like his teammate Cordero Patterson that everyone was kind of sleeping on him. They didn't know how he was going to be with Atlanta, but then he starts performing. Atlanta finds a role for him, which you got to trust their coaching here with Desmond Ridder to find a role for him. But I believe that could be, a breakout player. But y'all get in the chat, get in the comments, let us know if you have any other breakout players coming into 2023, a guy that was a rookie last year, stepping into their second NFL season.